Do we have any update on the search for the objects?
I've asked for an update as recently as this morning, and as soon as we have additional details with regards to the status of the recovery operations which are being conducted by the RCMP, the Canadian Armed Forces, and the Coast Guard will provide it. I would just remind that the conditions are very difficult. We're in the midst of winter. Temperatures are, rock bottom, freezing, very low, and they're in remote locations, and that applies equally to Lake Huron. So as soon as we've got additional details, I know there's a lot of interest to provide them, we will provide them.
The Americans are suggesting that they think these objects are probably benign and not related to China. Does Canada have any comment on that?
I've heard that, and before we get into the details of characterizing exactly what these objects are, let's make sure we recover them if we can, because I think that's also a working assumption. There is a possibility that we won't be able to recover them given the remoteness, given the challenges, given the deterioration, etc. But rather than speculate, let's first try to get a look, and then we'll provide you with an update
on Iran. The U.S. is accusing 3 business people in Canada helping the regime violate U.S. sanctions. They can't be sanctioned in Canada because they live here. What's the government going to do in response to what some experts call a loophole?
Well, first, we've taken decisive action by designating the entirety of the Iranian regime under the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act, which gives broad powers and important...
We talk about CARICOM, sir, in English. You're off to Nassau.
So the Iran question. Why wasn't that something?
So in the first case, let me just remind everybody that we designated the entirety of the Iranian regime. I know that others have appropriately raised questions about how that designation can help us take decisive action against the IRGC, for example. The short answer is that it allows us to impose some of the most severe sanctions on them, including around inadmissibility and seizing and freezing any assets which may be funneled back to the regime, including the IRGC, to stop any support for terrorist activity. We'll continue to be vigilant about that. We're working very closely with CBSA and the entire public safety apparatus to make sure that Canada is not a safe haven in any way to support the regime in Iran.
Why isn't
le cadre de la loi sur les mesures d'urgence, M. Perrin-Pitti, je pense que le gouvernement devrait dévoiler l'avis légal sur l'utilisation de la loi, juste par mesure de transparence, de clarté.
Mais écoute, comme je vais mentionner plein de fois maintenant, on va prendre une décision dans une façon qui est transparente. Il y a des circonstances qui étaient sans précédent à
en même
moment.
temps, on ne sait pas vraiment comment vous avez interprété la loi parce qu'on ne voit pas l'avis légal. Là. Je sais que c'est pas courant de les dévoiler, mais dans un cas exceptionnel comme celui-là...
C'est juste, mais écoute, j'ai déjà répondu plein de questions avant le juge Rouleau et j'espère qu'on va recevoir le rapport du juge Rouleau où il y a peut-être des recommandations. Le gouvernement restait toujours prêt pour travailler ensemble en étroite collaboration avec la Commission publique pour implémenter cette leçon.
When do you expect that report? Have they given you any indication?
I assume it's going to be in the short term. I don't have any precise timelines, but as soon as we get it, we're going to read it, try to digest it, see what lessons can be taken from it, and then work very closely with the Commission to implement.
Is there any way to table it next week?
In terms of
if you
the
don't
actual,
table it Friday, is there any actual way to bring back the houses?
Oh, because we're not sitting. Yeah, right. I mean that's a really good and important procedural question. I would defer to the government House Leader on that.
Why can't you do more to go after Iranians in Canada who are accused of trying to violate sanctions by other countries, by the U.S.?
Well, so in fact, I very recently met with leaders of the Iranian Canadian diaspora here, along with the Deputy Prime Minister and MP Assassi, where we talked about strengthening the linkages between the community and the government so that we can provide support to that directly. We know there's a lot of anxiety within the community about not only what is happening in Iran, regarding the suppression of human rights, and especially women who have been brutally tortured and murdered, but equally supporting the community here so that they can go about supporting human rights abroad and doing so without the cloud of oppression, intimidation, harassment, and we'll continue to keep those relationships very strong going forward.
Qu'est-ce que vous allez changer dans la loi sur les mesures d'urgence?
You're off to Nassau.
I was glad to be invited by the CARICOM leaders to talk about issues facing the Caribbean, whether it's on infrastructure, whether it's on climate change, whether it's the ongoing partnerships we have with them on a range of issues like energy and others. We're also going to be talking seriously about Haiti. Obviously, regional support and regional participation in all the work that Canada is doing down in Haiti is important, and I look forward to spending a little time with them tomorrow and coming back tomorrow.
Are we considering military? Will we send in the military to Haiti?
Vous avez conseillé M. Trudeau avant son départ pour les Bahamas où il va être question d'Haïti.
Oui.
Qu'est-ce que c'est votre conseil à M. Trudeau concernant l'implication du Canada?
J'ai eu des discussions effectivement avec le bureau du Premier ministre et puis, comment dirais-je, c'est de rappeler la situation, combien que la situation est difficile en Haïti. Et je pense que ça va être très important pour lui de rencontrer les présidents de la CARICOM. Il faut dire que le Premier ministre a déjà eu des discussions avec ces dirigeants-là au téléphone, par Zoom.
Sur le Canada pour jouer un rôle prépondérant. Quel rôle est-ce que le Canada devrait jouer en Haïti? Est-ce qu'on devrait mener une force internationale?
D'abord, il faut dire que le Canada est toujours là, est toujours prêt à aider Haïti. Le peuple haïtien est en train de souffrir présentement. Donc le Canada met tout en œuvre pour pouvoir aider Haïti. Et le Premier ministre avait dit qu'il faut un consensus au sein de la communauté haïtienne aussi, de façon à pouvoir y aller aider. Donc, la balle, dans un certain sens, est dans le camp des Haïtiens, de façon à pouvoir s'organiser et nous dire vraiment comment est-ce qu'on peut les accompagner.
M. Trudeau va vouloir négocier, j'imagine, peut-être que les pays des CARICOM s'impliquent eux aussi en Haïti.
Absolument.
Qu'est-ce qu'il peut leur présenter comme argument?
Ben écoutez, je pense que les pays de la CARICOM sont très sensibilisés parce que ces pays-là sont visés aussi par ce qui se passe en Haïti, que ce soit par la situation des migrants, que ce soit par les transactions économiques. Donc, je pense que ces pays-là, eux aussi, veulent voir une stabilité à long terme en Haïti.
Qu'est-ce qu'on peut faire pour les convaincre d'agir?
Il y en a plusieurs qui ont levé la main, qui ont dit oui, ils sont là, ils sont prêts à aider. Et d'autres qui disent non, mais je pense que ce qui touche surtout, c'est quand on parle d'une intervention militaire. Donc il faut voir, il faut discuter ces éléments-là parce que le Canada n'a aucune intention d'envahir Haïti. On veut aider les Haïtiens à s'en sortir.
Foreign and military intervention from the unelected president of Haiti.
Yes, from the beginning.
Right, but those remain, and the United States has said that Canada could lead that. You think that Canada should?
I agree.
So do you think, what sort of role should Canadian military have in terms of stabilizing
Well,
the situation?
we are still helping people in Haiti because you know that we transport materials to Haitian police in Haiti, and we had a airplane there to be able to help the intelligence in Haiti. So we're already there, but we can do more. But we have to have a discussion with...
You would like to see Canadian troops on the ground?
Canadian troops to help the police of Haiti to do the work that they have to do.
Do you think that the Prime Minister is going to take a message like that to his meeting in the Caribbean?
He's going to discuss with them, and like he said, he's going to need their support to help Haitian people in Haiti. Thank you so much. Merci. Je vous en prie.
M. Champagne, vous entendre au sujet du très grande fréquence
oui.
D'élus au Québec de plus en plus qui voudraient un TGV à la place du TGF. Est-ce que c'est faisable ou c'est...
Ben, c'est sûr qu'on veut de la fréquence avec de la vitesse, mais ce qu'il faut comprendre, puis vous savez, vous parlez à quelqu'un qui en sait quelque chose, j'étais ministre de l'Infrastructure à l'époque, l'idée c'est qu'il faut comprendre qu'il faut avoir un nombre de stations sur le trajet pour avoir le nombre de passagers suffisant pour rendre le coût abordable. Vous savez, il y a une question de densité de population. Quand j'écoute les gens parler de ce qui se passe en Europe, vous savez, je suis très au fait, j'ai parlé au président des sociétés, que ce soit Alstom, les gens de Siemens, je connais bien l'enjeu. Et nous, ce qu'on veut, c'est que ça prend un certain nombre de stations, parce que vous comprendrez, il faut avoir des gens à bord, pour que le coût soit raisonnable. Alors, c'est l'équation parfaite qu'on essaie de trouver entre la fréquence et la vitesse. C'est sûr qu'on est pour la vitesse maximale, si vous voulez, mais on veut que le train puisse s'arrêter à un bon nombre de stations, d'abord parce qu'on veut que les gens puissent l'emprunter le plus grand nombre possible.
Donc un TGV, on n'a pas ce qu'il faut au Canada, on n'a pas la densité.
Bien, je vous dirais, il y a une question de densité de population parce que quand vous regardez les grands centres urbains en Europe, c'est souvent deux grandes villes. point à point. Nous, ce qu'on veut, c'est qu'il y a un nombre de stations qui sont déjà définies. Donc, évidemment, vous savez, c'est comme l'équation parfaite entre fréquence et vitesse. Bien, écoutez, moi, je pense qu'il y a des technologies pour nous amener beaucoup plus rapidement que maintenant. Puis, il y a des technologies, par exemple, vertes sur les nouveaux moteurs à propulsion dans les locomotives. Alors, je pense que le message aux grands donneurs, tu sais, ceux qui seront partenaires, il faut savoir que ce sera le plus grand projet d'infrastructure du Canada depuis, mon Dieu, des décennies. L'idée, c'est de voir avec les partenaires qu'on aura, comment on peut trouver l'équation parfaite, si vous voulez, pour permettre que le plus grand nombre de gens possible puissent l'emprunter et que le train a une vitesse, j'allais dire, maximale, justement, pour permettre ça. Mais la question derrière ça, il y a une question de coût, mais il y a surtout une question de densité de population pour avoir un coût abordable pour les citoyens et les citoyennes. Merci.
Minister, on the research grants.
Sorry, sir.
Are you going to be talking to universities, provinces about these new rules on research grants?
Yeah.
What further actions are you going to be taking? What further actions will you be taking?
Well, I mean, when it comes to sensitive research, I think we all need to do more. I mean, what you saw is that I said we're going to put additional rules to make sure that we protect that. I think that's where Canadians are. They want to make sure that we have a better protection when it comes to sensitive research and our IP. But I think universities and provinces need to do more. So not only I have directed the Granting Council with new rules when it comes to sensitive research to protect our IP and our research in Canada, but I've also asked that provinces and universities follow suit so that in total we have a better framework when it comes to research security in the country.
Is your main target of this, is this mainly about China?
Well, I mean, we saw the reports, and I think we need to engage with eyes wide open. And we've seen some of the relationship, and I think Canadians were surprised and I would say disappointed. And therefore, I have the same feeling. When I saw that, I said it's unacceptable. And we all need to do more. And that's why I think what I've published yesterday with my colleagues is sending a very strong message that we engage with eyes wide open. We believe in freedom of research. But at the same time, let's be clear. We're going to protect our research. We're going to protect our intellectual property. And we're not going to allow sensitive research to be done with some military institute that could be harmful to our national security in Canada.
You're not saying China, and I'm wondering why.
Well, I mean, China and others. I mean, the reports at that time was with a number of Chinese military institute, and clearly that's going to be captured by the rules. But you know what? We need to make sure that this does not occur with any other states that could be conducting research that would be harmful to our national security. It's not just one country. I mean, we have to make sure that these rules would be proper for time, and making sure it covers a wide range of research that could be with Russia as well. So, we need to be doing all a bit more. And I think our rules that we've published are probably bringing us to the right level we need to be of awareness in this country when it comes to sensitive research. And I think Canadians were shocked, and I was, when I saw the reports, and therefore that's why we took very swift action. And we're going to be writing to university to say you need to follow suit.
Wasn't that swift, though? I'm wondering what took you so long.
Well, they sent 5 days. I mean, the same day I was ready to send the letters. That's not bad for government. I mean, that's about 10 hours.
But this has been an issue for a long time.
I mean, then that's why we've not been waiting for that. I've already published rules, you will remember, when it came to a number of strengthening our research security. But one thing that Canadians know, and you need to be aware, as you know, I don't have jurisdiction over universities, nor that I can direct them. So what we did is that we're going to direct those where we have full jurisdiction, and with respect to universities and provinces, invite them to follow suit, because that's what Canadians expect of us. Merci.
Où est-ce qu'en est votre réflexion sur la fusion Shaw-Rogers?
Écoutez, je suis encore en train d'analyser ça. Moi, ma préoccupation première, comme je l'ai toujours dit, c'est que d'avoir des prix plus bas pour les consommateurs, d'avoir plus de compétition. Puis on a vu depuis les décennies dernières, la meilleure façon d'avoir des prix plus bas au Canada, c'est d'avoir un quatrième joueur qui va forcer les prix. Ah, ben écoutez, moi, je suis le régulateur. Je vais prendre tout le temps que ça me prend pour regarder ça, parce que moi, le seul intérêt que j'ai, c'est l'intérêt des Canadiens. Ah, le temps que ça prendra. Le temps que ça prendra. Merci. Bonne journée à tout le monde.
Mr. Freeland, did you ask Mayor John Tory to not resign from his position after his announcement?
No.
What did you talk about with Mayor John Tory? Have you had conversations with him already?
So let me be absolutely clear and categorical. The story that was published yesterday is wholly untrue and not accurate.
Do you want a retraction?
I'm going to leave it up to my press team to deal with the finer points of the journalists. But, you know, I can speak for myself, and I'm speaking for myself right now. And let me just be very clear. That story is entirely untrue. It is entirely inaccurate. And I am glad to have the chance to speak for myself and be clear and categorical about that. Look, I'm going to repeat one more time so people can hear me speaking in my own words. And let me say, when I have something to say about my position, I have no problem saying it clearly myself. In this case, the story that was published is entirely untrue. It is entirely inaccurate. And I am glad to have the chance to be clear and categorical on the record saying that. Now, to your question, like very many Torontonians, I was very surprised, even shocked by what we learned on Friday night. Mayor Tory admitted to making a serious mistake and to a serious error in judgment. He took responsibility for that mistake. He apologized for that mistake. And he took responsibility by resigning. That was the right thing to do, and that was the necessary thing to do. Thank you very much.
Do you have any thoughts on have you had any conversations with him at all since he announced his resignation?
So it's okay if he stays?
You haven't said no. You actually haven't said no, you're not interested in running for the Toronto mayor. You just said you're not organizing, but are you interested in running?
No, I'm doing my job here. I'm representing my constituents. I love what I'm doing, and it is kind for friends and others to think that I should consider what they're suggesting, but I've made my intentions very clear.
Hard enough.
I don't intend to do anything other than my job. I hope that's clear enough for all of you.
Can you address the report that Canada needs 50% of our housing because of immigration, and also that our affordable housing is stalled? All this affordable housing is promised. When's it getting built?
That is not true.
When are the projects even finished?
That is not true.
But they haven't been approved though. They haven't been approved though.
If you let me answer, so
go ahead.
We've built. You don't have to be that intense for me to.
Oh, you were walking away. Someone had to be intense.
No, you're still intense. Look, we've built over unrepaired over 480,000 units since we came into office. The Rapid Housing Initiative alone is set to create over 14,500 deeply affordable homes, 100% funded by our government as a response to the displacement caused by COVID. If you look at the National Housing Co-Investment Fund, we've brought funds forward so that we can get more money out the door for 22,000 units. The Rental Construction Financing Initiative is being used across the country. If you look at our Innovation Fund, it's creating deeply affordable housing. So there's a lot happening. The need is great. We absolutely need to connect our immigration policy to housing, which we're doing with Minister Fraser. I've been working very closely with him to make sure that our skilled immigration levels include people who will actually come in to help us build housing for Canadians. So it's not, the two are not mutually exclusive. In fact, one reinforces the other. And I can tell you some of those spaces will be used for people in the building trades who are already here, who will help us to build the housing that we need for Canadians. So it is actually a necessity that we bring more skilled immigrants to help us meet and exceed our housing targets. In terms of the housing supply shortage, that is exactly true. We need 3.5 million more homes. We need 3.5 million homes by 2030. and we're doing everything that we can. It's not only up to the federal government. We need to do more with other orders of government. So it's not just a challenge for us, but we play a lion's share, and we're putting a lot of resources to this
Do you
challenge.
agree with that Desjardins report, though, that says that Canada needs 50%
Well,
more housing than you're already projecting?
I was referring to the CMHC report that said that we need 3.5 million homes by 2030.
Right.
And I think that's true, and that's why we have programs that are coming, like the Housing Accelerator Fund, to deal with the supply shortage that exists in Canada.
Will that
And
be enough, 3.5 million? Do you think that that is the actual number?
I trust CMHC that has done deep analysis on this, and they acknowledge that we have a supply shortage, and we need to close that gap. And that's why we're introducing programs like the Housing Accelerator Fund to remove the barriers that prevent more housing to be built at the local
But the
level.
projects
Thank
under that
you.
accelerator fund are stalled, sir.
Would that be something you would consider?
At this point, I haven't given it any thought. But let's see how it moves forward. And at the end of the day, it's important that we have a strong mayor for our city who's going to take us through this budget process, but also deliver on the services and the needs of the people of Toronto.
What if he backtracks on his resignation? What will that mean for City Hall and the city itself?
Look, I don't want to speculate on what happens, in a hypothetical situation. As of now, what I know is that the mayor has made a decision. He's made a decision to resign. He announced that. And I think that at this point, I expect him to carry out on what he said he would do.
There's a report that the Deputy Prime Minister encouraged Tory to stay. She denies it, but do you think that's an appropriate situation at all?
I really have no idea. I haven't heard about that at all, so I can't comment on that conversation. Again, I think the mayor announced he was going to resign. I think that given the circumstances, that's the appropriate thing to do. And at this point, I expect him to carry through on what he announced.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
Appreciate it.
Thanks. I guess first of all, do you think John Tory should ultimately resign?
Well, it's his decision, isn't it? It's he made an announcement last week, and it's concerning to a lot of local elected officials. We want to see. Some says that we'll know better by the end of the day, so we'll see that.
Okay.
Do you think what he did justifies to resign?
Sorry?
Do you think it justifies?
Again, it's a very personal decision by John. I have a lot of respect for John. I saw him at the funeral yesterday, and I said, whatever you decide, I support. I've known him for many, many years.
But if he backtracks on a resignation, would that not cause political chaos in City Hall?
Well, the way I see it, it's his own personal decision to begin with. If I put myself in his shoes, I would like to make sure that decision is mine, and I would like to make sure that the privacy is respected.
When you spoke to him, did you give him any thoughts on what you would like to see him do?
No, I just told him I'll support whatever decision he made, and ask him to take care of himself.
If he does end up resigning, is there anybody in the Liberal caucus in Toronto that you think would be good to run?
Nobody has talked to me so far, so I don't know.
Anybody you'd like to see run? Anybody that, if there's an opening there, that you think would be good?
We have a bigger problem right now with the Toronto caucus with regard to the redistribution. In my mind, that's not the number one issue. Toronto shouldn't be losing one riding, given the diversity and the growing population. So that's a battle that we have to win first. All right.
Thank you very much.
Mayor of Toronto, are you going to run for Mayor of Toronto? Have you thought about it?
I am trying to make sure I serve the people of Scarborough Centre, and that's what I'm going to do.
What do you think about what's happening in City Hall right now? Do you think John Tory should resign after announcing his resignation? Because there's a push right now to keep him to stay on.
It's up to him to make the decision.
Do you fear for the leadership at City Hall if we're going to have this sort of a by-election if he does resign, and where things go over the next?
If he resigns, there will be a by-election. The people will put up their names, and we will see who is the best one to serve the people of Toronto.
Do you know of anybody in caucus that might be interested?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I am trying to concentrate on serving people of Scarborough Centre, and that's what I'm going to continue to do. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Monsieur Hollande, le vote sur ces 13 sera-t-il un vote libre?
C'est important de parler avec le whip. Dans chaque instance, notre parti a le même règle, mais c'est le choix de whip. C'est important de parler avec le whip.
C'est quoi la règle?
Oui, c'est la règle. C'est plus facile pour moi de dire en anglais si c'est possible. We always say that there is decision that is made on every vote. Was this something that was a part of the platform? Was this something that was this something that is a matter of confidence for the government? And you know, we have an opportunity to have a conversation as caucus about it. But again, I'm not the one. It's the whip that I would refer you to for further conversations on that.
Was it routinely part of the platform?
Oh, absolutely. But I mean, there's instances where things change or where things are different, and so that is always has to be looked at. But again, I would refer to the whip.
It's not more the same thing. That's what you're saying?
No, what I'm saying is that it's a question you got to pose to the whip. I appreciate that you're pulling me into this, and I appreciate why you want to, but I'm not the whip. I was the whip for 3 years, and those times I enjoyed answering those questions.
Si vous étiez whip.
Pardon?
Séance,
Qu'est-ce que oui, absolument. Oui, c'est maintenant, je parle avec mon homologue dans l'autre partie et on doit chercher combien de temps est-ce qu'on va besoin pour étudier les amendements qui viennent du Sénat. Mais c'est une discussion avec mon homologue dans d'autres parties. C'est pas clair maintenant le processus. Et je vais continuer de parler avec des autres parties sur ça.
Ça pourrait être long.
Oui, si c'est pas clair maintenant. Il y a beaucoup d'opinions sur ça. Et alors, hier, j'ai eu l'occasion de parler avec chaque leader, avec chaque parti, et c'était clair qu'il y a des positions différentes avec chaque parti. Et pendant les prochaines 2 semaines, on va parler sur ça. OK?
Monsieur Lametti, sur C13, votre collègue vient tout juste de nous dire que le gouvernement pourrait voter contre si jamais c'est trop transformé au point qu'on ne reconnaît plus le projet de loi. Qu'est-ce que vous en pensez?
J'ai de la misère avec ma voix ce matin. Avant tout, mais nous sommes unis là-dessus, on travaille là-dessus, le comité va faire son travail et évidemment je suis membre du gouvernement et je vais voter avec le gouvernement.
Help Iran circumvent U.S. sanctions. Without an extradition request from the States, is there much that we can do to stop these people from doing business?
Look, that's something that our police forces and Minister of Public Security would have to deal with. Extradition is a complicated process in Canada. I sit at the top of that pyramid, and so I don't comment on any extradition matter because it could conceivably come to me.
Thank you. Alors, croyez-vous que ce projet de loi doit être adopté?
Mais je crois qu'on devrait trouver le meilleur projet de loi. Jusqu'à maintenant, je ne suis pas certain qu'est-ce qui va se faire. Je n'ai pas la version finale. Et on va voir. Il y a des bonnes choses dans le projet de loi, mais j'étais très perturbé par des amendements du conservateur et bloc qui ont été adoptés, que je crois vont nuire aux droits des Anglo-Québécois. Excusez-moi?
Lesquels?
Mais il y avait 3 amendements le vendredi. Oui. OK.
Dans la loi 96 au Québec.
Sorry?
What would play into your decision not to support Bill
Again, well, I hope I'm able to support it, but if right now there are references to the Charter of the French language and ones that the Bloc and the Conservatives have passed by amendment that would serve to reduce the rights of the English-speaking minority in Quebec, and if they remain in the bill, that would make it very...
How would they in your view?
One of the amendments, for example, integrates the reference into Section 3 of the bill. And when you would go to court and you would claim rights, it would be used as a way under Section 1 to show that you could limit these rights, and it would also be used to argue that federal services should be limited. And so, in any case, I believe in a bill that supports French across Canada, but also supports minority language communities, including the Anglophone community in Quebec. I will fight for that. I will go into committee to try to make this bill better. But if the bill reduces the rights of my community, it would be a difficult bill to support.
Mais en quoi, 96 brime les droits des anglophones au Québec. En quoi ça les brime outre l'usage de la clause dérogatoire?
96 dit que si la règle générale, c'est que si vous n'avez pas l'accès à des écoles anglaises, vous ne pourriez pas avoir des services gouvernementaux en anglais. Ça réduit le numéro de personnes au Québec qui peuvent avoir des services en anglais, même s'ils sont disponibles. Ça, c'est... très, très difficile à croire. Il s'est dit que moi, je ne peux pas avoir un certificat de décès, mariage en anglais, que nous avons eu depuis Confédération. Il y a des services qui sont enlevés, le droit de déposer au registre foncier en anglais un contrat sans une traduction certifiée en français. Il y a des choses qui sont là, qui sont des choses que j'ai prononcées là-dessus dans le printemps.
Vous n'êtes pas un ayant droit parce que...
I'm very concerned about the amendments the Conservatives and the Bloc have put forward that have amended the bill, in my view, in a very bad way, that have potentially reduced the rights of my community, and I'm hoping that they can be reversed.
Vous n'êtes pas un ayant droit, monsieur François-Philippe? Vous n'êtes pas un ayant droit?
Quoi?
Êtes-vous allé à l'école anglaise au Québec?
Oui, moi, oui. Mais oui.
Mais pourquoi vous dites que vous n'auriez
Quoi?
Vous dites que moi, j'aurais pas le droit d'avoir mon certificat.
Non, j'ai pas dit. Mais non, il y a deux différentes choses. La règle générale pour des services gouvernementaux, c'est qu'il faut avoir le droit d'aller à l'école en anglais. Mais oui, mais ce n'est pas le cas pour un certificat de naissance ou un certificat de décès ou de registrer un contrat en anglais à le registre foncier sans une traduction certifiée en français. Ces droits-là sont perdus pour tous les anglophones. Okay.
Canada with the Heritage Committee. Should the women's team have the same resources as the men's team?
I think they absolutely have every right to have the same resources as the men's team.
Do you plan to call the Soccer Canada reps to committee?
That would be my hope. I would like to see both Canada Soccer at committee, and I think they will be there, that's for sure. And I'd like to see the women's team also have the opportunity to address the committee to talk about what they see as issues with respect to transparency and governance at Canada Soccer.
Comment on the overall protest we're seeing?
No, I don't have right now all of the facts related to the dispute. I'm obviously concerned, like all Canadians, about the dispute. I want our women's team to succeed. But I think it's really important that the committee looks into the governance and transparency at Canada Soccer. Thanks. Have a great day.
C'est quoi votre...
Votez-vous contre le projet de loi C13 ou en faveur?
Vous allez voir.
Quoi?
Vous allez voir. Vous allez voir en temps et lieu. Il reste encore des amendements à débattre, puis on va voir le produit final.
Oui, mais c'est une promesse de campagne électorale, là.
Oui, c'est une promesse de campagne électorale, mais évidemment, en minorité, on ne contrôle pas la donne nécessairement. Puis évidemment, ce sont des amendements. Il y a des amendements du Bloc, du Parti conservateur, qui évidemment, minent complètement l'esprit de la loi. C'est-à-dire que le gouvernement fédéral assume sa juridiction de protéger le français, l'anglais, le cas échéant, dans sa sphère de compétences. Donc, c'est très important. Il y a des amendements à débattre. Puis je m'attends à ce que les gens font leur job en comité.
Ce que vous dites, c'est que s'ils pouvaient être transformés trop radicalement au point de ne pas vous y reconnaître, vous ne vous sentiriez pas obligé de voter pour.
On a des amendements du Bloc, puis du gouvernement du Parti conservateur qui mine complètement l'esprit de la loi. Donc, il va falloir ce que ça donne ensuite.
Some of your Anglophone colleagues have reservations, like Anthony Housefather, for example. Are you concerned at all about the amendments that have come forward and how it impacts Anglophones in Quebec?
Well, look, my primary concern, frankly, when you look at the state of the French language in Canada, is to make sure that my kids that I'm trying to raise in 3 languages can read and write by grade 11 or secondary 5. Bill C-13 and Loi 96, Bill 96, don't even start to address that. And I think that's a challenge for the strength of the French language in Canada. Our job is to defend French outside Quebec primarily, and to make sure that rights that exist for Anglophone minorities are not disrespected in the process of trying to make sure that we have a country that is bilingual. Well, we'll see that precisely in the amendments that I supported the law. To be quite clear, I did support the law that was put in front of the committee. You have 100 amendments that are there essentially to sack the spirit of the law, and we're pretty confident that we can get a bill through committee that all members of the Liberal Party can lift their heads high and vote for.
About protecting the French language.
It's my press secretary's birthday. She doesn't want me to answer any questions.
Are you worried that in protecting the rights of Francophones outside the country, that you're going to risk eroding the rights of Anglophones inside?
Well, I think we have to ask ourselves whether a province that isn't Quebec could eventually put forward a law to say to the federal government that in your jurisdiction, we only want English. What moral authority do we have to stand up to say, well, no, you have to defend French?
And so I think we have to ask ourselves that question as a country. It's a very profound one for who we are, who am I, how I was raised. So that's something that we debate constantly. We debate as a society. It's very difficult in this country to have a very intellectual debate on language. I think we've seen it get into the dregs of things that are very, very emotional. But again, to make sure that we have a country where I can raise my kids in both languages and even a third language of my wife is something that's very important to me.
Do you think the spirit of the bill has changed?
Happy birthday!
Pour les PDG comme Hydro-Québec, pas Hydro-Québec, Air Canada ou pour les gens comme le CN, par exemple, pourquoi est-ce que les libéraux en comité hier ont voté contre prendre l'obligation de parler en français pour les PDG d'entreprises à charte fédérale?
Il faut regarder la dynamique des comités, mais pour moi, il est absolument essentiel que ces gens-là, volontairement, apprennent les deux langues officielles. On parle ici de hauts dirigeants d'entreprises nationales qui font affaire au Québec et dans plusieurs communautés francophones à travers le pays. Donc, pour moi, c'est la bonne chose qu'ils apprennent les deux langues.
Roxane, mais est-ce que c'est une volonté du fédéral de transférer davantage de migrants vers d'autres provinces que le Québec pour laisser un peu souffler le Québec?
On reconnaît que Québec fait plus que sa part. Et on remercie d'ailleurs le gouvernement du Québec. Et effectivement, nous sommes en discussion avec d'autres provinces pour pouvoir alléger un peu le fardeau du Québec. Bien, pour qu'il y ait des gens qui aillent ailleurs. Ouais.
Certains au Québec, semble-t-il, s'inquiètent que certains migrants qui parlent français soient poussés vers l'extérieur du Québec.
Non, il n'y a personne qui va être poussé ou quoi que ce soit. Là. Ça se fait de façon volontaire, mais on reconnaît ici que l'effort du Québec est colossal. Et on est là pour l'appuyer depuis le début d'ailleurs aussi. Mais on discute avec d'autres provinces parce qu'il y a des besoins aussi ailleurs en termes de main-d'œuvre, autre chose. Donc, les discussions vont bon train d'ailleurs.
Est-ce que tout le Québec au niveau du Québec va voter ensemble sur C13? Est-ce que tout le caucus du Québec va voter?
Je l'espère. Chacun vote. Je l'espère. Moi, écoutez, C13, ça c'est une question pour le WIP, mais C13 reconnaît qu'il y a une langue qui est menacée au Canada. C'est le français, qu'il faut faire plus pour le français au Québec et ailleurs, et on va faire plus pour le français au Québec et ailleurs. Et on veut s'assurer que des francophones puissent travailler, avoir des services dans leur langue dans les entreprises de compétences fédérales.
Ça a l'air d'être compliqué, là. Vous n'entendez pas sur les amendements sur lesquels on doit adopter un comité. Vous n'entendez pas entre anglophones et francophones.
Non, mais il y a des discussions, c'est normal. C'est normal. C'est normal qu'il y ait des discussions, mais le projet définitif va passer, c'est un très bon projet de loi. C'est un très, très bon projet.
C'est des gens qui travaillent pour les compagnies de la couronne fédérale ou pour Air Canada. Est-ce que ces PDG-là, ces directeurs-là devraient parler français?
Bien, je pense qu'effectivement, il faut que dans la fonction publique fédérale, les hauts fonctionnaires doivent parler français. Alors moi, je pense que ça devrait être le cas pour les sociétés de la couronne également.
À ce moment-là, pourquoi les libéraux ont voté contre un amendement dans le comité qui étudie C13 présentement qui aurait obligé les PDG comme M. Rousseau ou les gens du CN à parler français?
Écoutez, je suis pas sur le comité, donc je ne suis pas les travaux du comité au jour le jour. Il peut y avoir toutes sortes de raisons qui fait que le Parti libéral aurait refusé cette amende-là. Moi, je le vis à tous les jours dans un projet de loi qui est devant le comité sur l'environnement. Parfois, on va voter pour un amendement pas parce qu'on n'est pas d'accord avec le fond, mais avec la façon dont on propose de procéder, donc plus la mise en œuvre.
Vous aimeriez que ce soit obligatoire pour un PDG comme ça?
Bien, je pense qu'on le fait pour la fonction publique, on devrait le faire pour l'ensemble des sociétés de la couronne.
Bien, je pense qu'il devrait y avoir une recommandation, évidemment, qu'il y ait du français de la part des PDG dans la recherche de candidats, au moins d'avoir une possibilité de travailler dans les deux langues officielles. Alors, je pense qu'il doit y avoir une certaine possibilité que les dirigeants aient les langues officielles dans leurs compétences pour avoir le poste.
À ce moment-là, pourquoi les libéraux ont voté? Monsieur McKinnon, est-ce que ça va être un vote libre, C13? Est-ce que ça va être un vote libre, C13?
Le processus législatif suit son cours. Il n'y a aucune décision de prise. Il n'y a aucune décision.
Vous savez pas si ça va être libre ou pas?
Il n'y a aucune décision de prise. Le processus législatif suit son cours.
Oui, mais en temps normal, ce genre de questions-là, c'est quand même une promesse.
Vous connaissez nos politiques. On a trois endroits où le vote est libre et c'est des engagements de plateforme, la Charte des droits et libertés, des questions de confiance.
Donc, les collègues sont contre. Il y en a qui disent qu'ils ne vont peut-être pas l'appuyer.
Le projet de loi, on a encore des amendements à faire. On va travailler ensemble avec tous les partis, avec nos collègues.
Avec vous, peu importe les amendements, la Marche-Série va voter pour.
On travaille, c'est important pour les communautés. Il y a le plan d'action, il y a les comités d'institutions minoritaires. Alors, les mesures sont déjà dans le projet, sont importantes. Si quelques individus qui votent, ils ont le droit de le faire. Mais je pense qu'en général, on regarde qu'est-ce qu'on va faire pour les communautés en situation minoritaire à travers le pays, c'est important. Alors, il faut passer le projet de loi le plus vite possible.
Bon, merci.
Merci.
Monsieur Tory, est-ce que vous allez appuyer le projet de loi C-13?
Écoute, on croit que, d'après moi, particulièrement le gouvernement et le Parti libéral du Canada appuient les droits de toutes les minorités. Je pense que le français même, à l'extérieur du Québec, doit avoir les droits, c'est ce qu'il faut. On défend le droit des communautés minoritaires à travers le pays, puis on est fiers de faire ça.
Vous votez contre?
Vous votez contre?
Je n'ai pas mentionné, je vote quand le vote est arrivé. Je n'ai rien dit de quelle façon je veux voter. Mais vous allez voir à la Chambre.